field. And we are different. We on different levels. So more interdisciplinary. I'm visual arts, but you are more music and theater, I think. So we all have our specialties, but we work with older students, HBO students, they call it. So it's not gymnasium, but it's
academic.
Yeah, academic students. Yeah. Okay. So I work more in the research field. So.
And anything special you wanna?
Well, no, I'm just was really interested in all the different ways you promote your museum as an institute. So the downstairs was really it was interesting to me.
Yeah. Sure.
And like, for instance, like the photo museum that they open until 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And what I really liked was the interview you hear when you're on the toilet. You hear the interview with one of the artists exhibited. So you're in the bathroom and you hear this interview, which is great.
You might steal that one.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I wrote it to my friend in Holland also, who works at the Eye Museum, the film museum. She's a conservator over there. So I said, you have to do that. You have to.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah. So then
in the audiovisual world, they do it more often.
Yeah, well, because it's really you are there, and then it's great.
And you have all the time to listen. You have the waiting moment.
Yeah. Time well spent then.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, but this is just an assumption. It feels so much more like not only a museum, but also more, if you look at the full environment, like a cultural space, including. So I'm very interested in crossover disciplines, in what music is happening over here, actually as a position in Stockholm. And also what kind of workshops or what brings more disciplines together.
Okay.
And
so we have a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah. So that's a personal interest, I think. Performances.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I work as a curator with the education or learning department, and my main responsibility is teachers and school kids from the age of like 12 until they graduate from the gymnasium or high school. But we work in my department. We work with lots of different things, of course. I also sometimes arrange seminars. I write lots and lots and lots of texts. All labels. I write teachers' guides. Okay. I am responsible for the contents in our teen workshops and all the guided tours for my age groups. But we collaborate a lot, so I work with loads of different things. And I'm also involved in a research project on Ponsulthen, so that's why I keep coming back to him and history. And we've already talked a bit about the history of the museum, but once again, it opened in 1958, and Ponsulthen, he hired an art educator and a curator. He was both things, called Carlo Verket. I don't know if you've heard of him, but we talk about him a lot. And he was an art historian who really, really was interested in the audiences. Mm-hmm. So he had guided tours, and they were so well attended. There were like hundreds of visitors gathering around him. He had to stand up on a chair in the middle of the room and talking about all the artworks. And what he emphasized from the beginning in the 60s was that art education needs to be about dialogue. Mm-hmm. It must not be about lecture. Mm-hmm. So we still work in that manner, and of course many museums do. But we're really keen on talking about we work in a dialogue manner. Mm-hmm. So it's not about the enlightened art educator telling the audience about the artworks, but it's also about listening. so that the visitors can contribute to their experiences.
And can I ask, does the curator and the art educator have the same status within the museum? Because in Holland, always the curator, you have the director, the curators, and then you have staff like art education with schools and stuff like that. So it's a really pyramid. But if you say from the start, education was part of the
Education was part of the museum from the very beginning, so it's got quite a high status. But of course, we've also got that same hierarchy.
Oh well.
So I am a curator, so I'm on the same structural level as the curators who curate exhibitions.
Yeah.
But in practice, I can experience that there is a difference, because the exhibitions and the collection displays are always first priority.
Yeah. Like in money and stuff like that?
Yes, in money and in just general status.
Yeah.
But we are a state-funded institution, and we've got a letter from the government saying what we are supposed to do and what we are going to prioritize, and they always put education very high up on their agenda, of course. So officially, we're on the same level.
Or even around.
Yeah, but unofficially, we still got that traditional hierarchy.
Okay.
Interesting,
How many visitors, the young visitors, do you have each year?
Oh, good question. I can send you the numbers. I don't have them in my head
So
right now.
estimate. I was thinking about not completely, not so precisely.
I should know this, but I don't. So I'd rather not say anything. I'll send you the numbers.
Yes, thank you.
So the guided tours and the dialogue, they were important since the start of the museum.
Yes.
So how did you improve with that by the years? And could you name some examples of the past years? How you start the dialogue with different kinds of groups?
Well, the dialogue is always the starting point. So our guides, our art educators, mainly the guided tours are conducted by freelancers. So they all know about this history, and they are free to design the tours however they like. We've got certain themes for different age groups. We've got these 1-hour tours, and then you can select a theme for this tour. You can focus on gender and queer issues. You can focus on feminism. You can focus on just modernism and modernity. So we've got these different themes for the tours. And then you can choose to go on a workshop, and those are 2.5 hours. And for the younger kids, up until about 12 years of age, the themes are like triangles, circles in art, but it can also be philosophy. So it's a philosophy workshop, and those are quite new to us, and they work really, really well. We've got a philosophy educator, now 3 of them.
Oh yes.
And they work with themes also then?
Yes, they work with
I find that
themes
very
within.
interesting, because I was researching on a subject that in Holland, for a long time, they didn't use philosophy anymore into education. And, like Steinberg, and, there was before there was a lot. But somewhere around the 50s, 60s, they stopped philosophy in education. And slowly, they're starting to bring philosophy back as what's the philosophy of education. Is that what you're talking about? Or is it philosophers on social, on engaged themes?
The philosophy guided tours and the philosophy workshops, we offer these to all age groups, really. That's about the Socratic conversation. So it's it's similar to the methodology that we use in our regular tours, but the conversation is even more emphasized. The art educator and the philosophy educator then talks about the importance of that everybody in the group listens to each other and that you respect each other, and they talk a bit about some important philosophers, but it's not a philosophy lesson, but you just apply.
And you get
Exactly,
aware
that's what I mean.
conversation.
It's very interesting because it's just very new that they start to talk about it in Holland.
And teachers and students love it.
Yeah.
Really, really love it. And I feel I love it too, because I feel it's so important to have kids coming here and they get to think about, okay, we need to respect each other. I'm sure they talk about it in school all the time. But here it's a different context and it's a different environment, and they look at art and they get to look at the artworks and really discuss them from a philosophy perspective.
Yes.
And I think it's a democratic work, and I think it's such a beautiful...
Wow,
That's also a responsibility you're taking as a museum to stimulate that.
Yeah.
Instead of just discussing the artworks by the stories, it's just like it's going beyond.
It's going beyond.
Yeah.
Do you use as well? This is for the kids to the age of to 12. For instance, also for the young people about social development. For instance, not only art history is you introduced during the guided tour, but also about society, about philosophy. These themes are these themes coming back as well in the guided tours for the youth, or not?
Yes, I mean, depending on what theme the teachers choose. If you choose, for example, modernism and modernity, then the guides always talk about the development in society, history of ideas in the 20th century. Is that
The
what
context.
you were...
No, I was thinking about not only combination of art, but also the how to be a citizen, how to say what happens now in society and in politics now, to combine this together in the guided tour and to cooperate this with artworks. So not only art history and the context of art history, but also context of a society of nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I think all our guides do those connections.
Okay.
When we talk about feminism, for example, why is the collection, why does it look like it does today? We have had a drive where we acquired lots of artworks by female artists called the Second Museum of Our Wishes. Why did we do that? Why is why does our collection, why does it look like it does? And what's the story today? Is there inequality? I mean, we bring in the Me Too movement, so that it must feel, of course, contemporary and relevant for all the people who come here. So art is not an isolated thing, but it's also a part of them.
Can I ask you about the philosophy or the other tours? Do you prepare the groups that come here? Are they prepared within schools before they get here?
That varies a lot.
Okay.
Some teachers are very ambitious and they have prepared their kids and they have been talking about
But
the
it's
themes.
not like that you play a role as a museum in...
Study programs.
Yeah, you give out like certain educational kits and they have to do that before they get into the philosophy group or something.
No. For the philosophy sessions, we say that you don't need any previous knowledge. You can just come and philosophize. So we leave that very open.
And the groups are smaller then?
No, they can be 30.
Oh, okay. Even up to...
But it's preferable with smaller groups.
Yeah.
Adam, he's sitting right there. He's the one who initiated this whole philosophy program. He's a philosopher. Yeah.
Okay, so but they are not prepared. But if you... So you don't have like educational kits that you send to school boxes with all these...
I do the teachers' guides for temporary exhibitions.
Oh,
and
okay.
you can work with them in the classroom and you can prepare for a visit, or you can work with it afterwards.
Okay.
So they're very, very flexible. And I just write about the exhibitions, and then I write different questions to discuss, different exercises.
Okay,
to
so that's
try
what
out.
you do.
That's
Yeah.
what I do.
Okay.
But for the collection, and that's what I'm talking about mostly when I talk about the guided tours. These themes are mostly for the collection. And then we don't ask them to prepare at all. For the queer and gender focus genus, as we call it, then we have written on the website that it's good to have some previous knowledge about these concepts. Because I once had a group, and they came here and they were like 15, 30 kids, 15 years old. And I was like, hi, welcome. And you have booked this queer and gender tour, right? And they were like, huh? And I said, what? Okay, so you didn't know that? That's fine. Have you been talking a lot about this at school? And they were like, talking about what? About gender? What's that? Okay. Have you been talking about modern art at all? No. Have you ever been here before? No. So, like, in 1 hour, the teacher had hoped to, check the boxes of queer and gender, equality, feminism, and modern art history.
This way.
And I just felt that this is not good, because it's a big thing just to get here physically from if you're out in the suburbs somewhere and to get here. So sometimes it can be enough just to have a look at 3 or 4 artworks. So you can't be too ambitious. So then we have a note on the website saying you should prepare at least somewhat, otherwise it won't be meaningful.
I can imagine there are a lot of groups. There are also a lot of audiences like that who don't have the pre-knowledge or preparation, or are not used to go to a museum.
Yeah.
So a gender and queer tour can be much of a too big step for them.
A much too big.
What are you trying to do to reach those audiences in the first place?
Of course, we always want to reach new audiences, and we do welcome people with no prior experience of art, and we try to lower the thresholds, but it's not easy. Schools, they tend to come here because it's part of
the curriculum.
Part of the curriculum to visit cultural institutions, and if the teachers are interested, they bring their students. And we send out newsletters to teachers trying to be very straightforward, inviting. In my teacher's guides, I always, or almost always, I have a list of difficult words and concepts so that I explain things, so try to break down the barriers. Yes.
And are you, because like, for example, the Blikopeners project, it's a peer-to-peer project, and there are more projects now, started by museums, also by the Van Gogh Museum. We're now doing a diverse program, which is a pilot of 4 years to reach groups from areas in Amsterdam who are never coming to the museum. And they always start with this community members to engage them with the museum, to see if they can engage their community to come out. Are you thinking about programs like that, similar to the Blikopener project? Or?
Well, we have had different projects over the years where we have tried to reach new groups and to have peers inspire each other. We had this Stockholm Moderna, I think it finished like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, and this was a
is that the video downstairs, the girls who were talking? Because it's in Swedish, I couldn't understand.
No, that's a different thing.
Oh,
yeah. That's the mute. Yeah, that's a different thing.
Okay.
But here we worked with artists who were hired for a period of 3-4 months as art educators. So one artist for each program or exhibition, and they got to work with one group of students, teenagers, over the course of several weeks or even months. And this group of students, they were put together from different parts of the city. So not just one class, but people from different areas
Schools
with
even,
different backgrounds and different languages. So that the dynamics of this group would be completely different to what it used to be in school.
And again,
And
the dialogue again.
Yes.
And are they Swedish artists then who join in?
Swedish
Or-
artists, yes.
And even foreign artists? Or?
I think mainly Swedish artists.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are exceptions. But this project ran for a few years, and it was very labor intense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the museum also became visible outside the museum walls
Yes.
with this project.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
What's the name of this project?
So
Moderna.
Moderna, and I know a museum in Japan has adopted this
Okay.
method.
Okay.
But we felt that it reached quite few students since it was quite exclusive then. The same group came back for a long period of time. It was difficult to negotiate with the schools, of course, to get the kids to leave school and come here for so many times. But it was super important for the students who were enrolled in this, and it also gave, effects far beyond this little circle of students, because they brought their families, they brought their friends, and the museum really became a second home to them.
Yeah.
So
That's important, huh?
yes, and we see that many of those kids who are engaged in this, they are now in art educations or even practicing artists, and that wasn't the intention from the beginning. We didn't want to create artists, but they just got an understanding for what art can be, or for the different processes, the creative processes. So that's what happened.
But even the exhibition downstairs on surrealism in Egypt,
Yes.
does that attract then a new group of people?
We hope so.
So is it the intention that
It is
you
the
program
intention.
this exhibition right now at this time?
Yes, it's part of a bigger theme within the museum. Our two directors are talking a lot about opening the museum to a bigger world. So we have presented out exhibitions and also made acquisitions with artworks from other parts of the world than the usual suspects.
Yes.
More a global
Less Western and
Not
more
only
global.
Western,
Yes.
but
Because that's quite interesting. In music, you also see the same development at the moment. That a lot of pop music, like very Western pop music, is more and more, and dance music and everything is more and more included world music, but not in the traditional only way, but actually how it influences in the now. And it's a very big development, and I think we will talk about it in, like, let's say 7 years, and then we look back to give the examples, because we are actually in the middle of it.
No, so that exhibition, Concrete Matters, it's also part of that project, because it's concrete art from South America.
yes.
So we've got South America there, and we've got Egypt downstairs. And that Art et Liberté Egyptian Surrealism, it's also an ambition of the curators was to ask questions about the center and the periphery.
Yes.
Is it all? Is what Edward Said said? Is that always true? Is it always so that we are thinking about the center, and then the ideas spread from the center and out
From
to the
Europe,
periphery?
and then or America,
Or could there be
whatever.
different centers at the same time, parallel, being equally important at the time?
Observed this development.
Thank you for
exactly,
thinking like that.
I was an exhibition. It was
Documenta was
10 years ago. It was also in Modern Tate. It was a new school of Kinshasa. I didn't know exactly. Always all the museums are just direct connected to the Western art, Europe, America, but North Africa. What happens now? So it was for me really eye-opener.
Yeah.
It was really high quality and neutral themes. So it was really amazing. But I have a quite different question, because you are talking about the guided tours from the perspective of philosophy and society. But I observe it now as well in development in art education in Netherlands. But sometimes during the guided tour, the knowledge of art history and maybe it's not the most important issue. They would like to communicate with the artworks. So they use the techniques, the viewer, the visitor has to have a kind of a dialogue, contemplation with the artwork. And this is more what you are imagining and how you communicate. It's not about context of art history, but what you see and what you feel.
Yeah.
And because I read a lot about it, and it's a movement as well in Netherlands, and research about it.
Yeah.
So I'm quite interested. What do you do? It's about mostly in practice with young people, about from 12 until 18, because from their perspective, from their emotions, they are looking on the picture of something, and this is the dialogue. This is most important, how to get the dialogue with artwork. This is the guided tour. So,
I think we tried to combine those two different approaches to our guided tours, because I feel that teachers, they expect a visit to the Moderna Museet to be educational, and they want their students to hear about art history. So it's important for us to give them that, and then the teachers are like cool, and they're calm and they're happy, and then we can win them over with just asking them to contemplate what they see, and to emphasize that what you feel in front of an artwork is always valid. So you can engage in a dialogue without knowing anything previously, but if you know more, you will see more. So we try to combine.
Yeah, you're creating a context.
Do you use some structure of these questions, for instance, to build it up, this experience?
No, it's up to the guides.
The guides, okay.
Yeah, we've got very experienced and very good guides. Most of them are artists themselves, so they've got an understanding for the creative process and the artistic process. But when we open an new exhibition, we have these meetings with the guides, and to have the curator gets to talk about the exhibition and the ideas, and we always try to remind everybody that it's important to make the teachers happy, because they are getting the kids here, but it's also important to respect the artworks. They're not just illustrations. We feel that schools sometimes want to instrumentalize everything, just make it useful. So can we get a guided tour where mathematics is included, where history is included, and yes, of course we can do that, but it's also for us important to just give the people who come here an art experience, and that's where that contemplation comes in.
Because I saw 2 months ago, I saw not live, but I saw the video, the documentary, and it was in a museum in Warsaw. They made the guided tour, also in Modern Art Museum, and for the young people, and they during the guided tour, the young people could dance. It was a combination. Okay, what do you about art history, but also movement. So I saw a lot of activity, not only listening, but also you are cooperate your body.
Yeah, lovely.
So I was really interested. Do you see this movement as well here in Sweden? Something to combine the disciplines together.
We have had conferences together with something called Dans i skolan, Dance in School.
Yeah.
So we have had kids dance in front of the artworks, move in front of the artworks. With younger kids, sometimes we play a game where we get to use our bodies to mimic one of the sculptures. I have made a family, like a family material that you can use when you come here with your family, where some of the questions involve movement that I suggest that you put your body in the position of a sculpture or something like that. So maybe that will be even more seen in the coming years, because I think that's a very nice way to
I was reading a lot about it from the research from 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Written. So I was this is the kind of movement going on.
Yeah.
I was thinking, but you are working. We are studying ludodidactic. That is a game principles. How we can use this in educational. And our teacher, she developed a game for the museums as well.
Yeah.
Do you use the games as well in the museums for a guided tour, to reach more?
Well, the thing is, I think it's not a guided tour. They just give it the game and they say, go ahead, class.
Card game
Yes,
with different assignments. You play it in a group. You get different kinds of assignments. Or you need to write like a hip hop song with an artwork, or
You have to draw things, or you have to get knowledge about things.
I do
or
those
choose the most
things.
ugly
Yes,
work.
I do them all the time for temporary exhibitions, and I've got one for the collection, and I've got one for the Ponsulti and Study Gallery actually.
So you develop like game kind of. It's not a game like playful kind of.
But playful materials, they are always about looking at the artworks with your eyes wide open. That's always my main focus. I don't want the playing element, the game, to take over.
Yeah.
I don't want to create stories that don't resonate with the exhibitions and the artwork.
That's a difference, I think. That's a different approach than.
But for example, when we had a Cindy Sherman exhibition a few years ago, that was a quite difficult exhibition for kids, because Cindy Sherman, some of her images are quite stark, and they are body fluids, and they're just gross, really, but fantastic, but they're quite gross. And so many parents were worried, like, can I enter the exhibition with my kid? So I created this tour. You could take a paper where I had created sort of a frame story, and it was like, okay, so many adults get a bit anxious when they look at Cindy Sherman's art, and this could happen to your parents or caregivers as well. So just grab them by the hand and tell them that everything will be okay. And then I changed the roles, and then I wrote a detective story. So they got to look at the artworks and try to figure out
Role play,
Yeah, it was a bit of a role play, but it was always, or that was my ambition anyways, to be anchored in the individual artworks. Not just run and see, I know the title of this work, but actually you need to look. So that I don't do lots of
and this you just do by gut feeling?
Yes. Honestly, yes.
Yeah. And what kind of reaction did you get from the parents and children?
Very, very positive. Yes. And we see that there's a need for those things to grab onto, especially when you visit an exhibition with modern and contemporary art and you don't know anything about it beforehand. It might feel a bit stressful to enter, and you don't know what to expect, and then just to give them something then to hold on to. And it's designed for families, so they feel safe. So our hosts, they are constantly giving me feedback that these are actually very popular and they work.
Yeah, and like you hear back, this works and this doesn't work, and then the next time you like adjust.
Of course,
things
yes,
like that.
absolutely.
So how would you say the first time you developed it and now, is there a big difference, or did you grow a lot, or do you use different kind of types of questions or different kind of types of assignments, or
Those vary very much depending on the exhibition.
Okay.
So sometimes they are more. Yeah, I try to be very broad so that it can work for a family with very young kids and with older kids, and it can be a lot of fun. You can do it together, and never about knowledge. You should never feel stupid. No, I don't know the answer to this. Has it changed over the years? I began I think the first adventure I did was for the Hilma af Klint exhibition, and that was in 2013. And then I made the Hilma af Klint mystery, and it was so much fun. Then I had free hands. Nobody knew what I was doing, and we had very little money to produce it, so it was a bit unconventional when it comes to design. Now the communications department has sort of wanted to streamline it a bit so that the adventures look like everything else in the museum. But still I get to work with an illustrator, so I can have some imagery that is not part of the general design.
But is it like working, because do you have audio tours also?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so it's next to each other. It's not like now the whole exhibition goes more towards these kind of...
No, we've got everything, but not for every exhibition.
Yeah.
So, for example, for Arrêt Liberté, I haven't created anything for families in that exhibition because I felt that
It's more intellectual.
it's quite intellectual, and of course I could do something for families there, but then I felt that I've got something for the concrete matters. I've got an adventure, and I've got something for the collection, I've got something for the study gallery, and we can't
Do everything. Yeah.
And also for almost all adventures there's a free little giveaway.
Oh, yes.
So that you when you have solved the problem.
How big is your team? Your education?
We have 7 education curators.
7?
7, including our director of the department. She's also a curator.
You know how
And
big
then
how big is it in Stedelijk? Stedelijk has 3, I thought.
Yes, Stedelijk I think has around 3 educators and of course
A lot of stagiaires.
employees.
but we've got 7 curators, and then we've got 3 art educators who's working with us full.
But I think it's similar to the whole educational department of the Stedelijk. It's also around 7 or 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole educational department, yes. But, And because on our first day, we met some people who were saying like, things are really changing in the government now. They're spending less in arts and, educational projects and stuff. Is that funding? Is that happening for you, or is there a new tendency? You need to do different things to get your money, or?
Well, it's a constant shift, of course. Now we've had free entrance to the collection for as long as this government has been in power, and now we are holding our breaths to see what's happening this autumn, because there will be a new election, and if there will be a shift, I'm sure that we won't be able to have a free entrance anymore. And we've got the Sweden Democrats, very right wing political party, and they are, in my opinion, very scary, because they are like saying things like we would consider closing some museums, we would consider banning some artworks. I mean, it's really scary 30s tendencies.
Yeah, we have those parties too.
Yeah.
Yes.
All over Europe.
It's a trend in Europe.
It's a plague, yes.
Yeah.
But how
Anti-European,
come the photo museum can be open until 11?
Private museum.
The photographic.
Yeah.
Fotografiska, yeah.
private.
Is that private?
Private.
Oh.
It's private money.
Oh, and so they're a restaurant, and they make money out of it.
They make the money of the restaurants, and maybe also one of the
Sponsorships.
Sponsorships, big time.
Yes.
So
But you have a lot
they
of
have loads of
sponsors
stakeholders.
also. I saw downstairs on the stairs.
We do have sponsorships, and that's encouraged, absolutely. But we also have directions for how to conduct.
Yeah, it's different with a private
collaborations.
museum and there's
Yes.
Well, the thing is, I didn't see a lot of. Did you see the sponsors in the photographic museum then exhibit?
with the
No,
it
but
was
they,
not
general
like-
exhibition.
they also have a lot of like kind of gatherings for all the stakeholders. So like,
Did you see that?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
me
didn't
too.
even see that.
They work quite aggressively with sponsors, I
And,
think,
you know,
with
but
people
very
with money.
like it almost like as they work as an advertising, on that level.
And they sell classes. I mean, you can go in a photography class there, and it's quite pricey, and the tickets are very pricey. And I don't know if you try to present them with a museum card, an
I
icon card.
presented my icon card,
They're
and
like,
they
no.
it was the first time I've ever had
And
this.
even if I say that, well, I'm a colleague.
Yeah.
I work
No, you
across
have
the
to
water.
pay.
And they say, no, sorry, you need to pay. So it's just different.
A question about the tours and programs for schools. Do you use do you use modern media during when you how to say when for the young people who are coming here? Because I saw everybody's working with a cell phone. What are you
Virtual
doing
reality.
with this? Because I see this is my problem when I'm going with my classes, and mostly this is okay. I'm using to make a photograph, and mostly is to check my chats.
Yeah.
So do you use them as well for these programs?
Not as part of the guided tours. No.
Okay.
Not yet. We might find some ways to work with it rather than against it, because right now we're more like, please put your phones away.
This way.
Yeah. But we do have iPads. Some guides use them occasionally, just to present something that's not on display, or to play a piece of music.
Yeah.
If you're not in a guided tour, you can of course use the audio guide, which is a mobile device. I curated an exhibition in Moderna Museet Malmö. We've got a museum in Malmö in the south of Sweden as well, Moderna Museet. It was for kids and other curious people, so it was like part of the Best Biennial, which is an initiative to make young people come to art museums in the region of Skåne. And then I created, together with my colleague, an exhibition where part of the exhibition was digital.
Okay.
So you could listen to an audio guide with a story, and you could use your iPad or your telephone to unlock new stories about different artworks, like portals that opened up.
Also like gamification.
It's a gamification.
Have you listened to the museum hack tours in the
yes.
detour in San Francisco MoMA?
No.
Well, there's museum hack, but it's different.
Yeah, I've read about it, but
kinds of
the New
tours.
York museum hack I knew about, but
Yes,
not.
well, they created a guided tour, audio guided tour, which was published in the Detour mobile application. You could only listen it on site, and then there are these comedians giving a tour, and they're different kind of really funny and.
How they call it hacking the tours or
Yes,
something?
well, there's this organization, Museum Hack.
Yeah.
They're based in New York,
Yeah.
and they take you along a tour in the museum, and it's all about dialogue and making fun.
Yeah.
The language is most
Very unorthodox, not the traditional.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see as well, for instance, 1 year ago, Rijksmuseum, that is a museum not for modern art, but for the art from 17th century, they used the vlogs, and also the young people who make vloggers, make the vlogs for the young people, and they hired them to make the vlogs for the guided tours.
Yeah.
So and they have and because I saw this and they make the challenges as well for if you are
The best vlogger or what?
but also you make the challenges during the guided tour. So for instance, if you follow the tour, you have you get the challenge and something to do as well. Okay, now you have to do this. You go to this room and you have to find this, and this is the challenge. And the challenge is it's not possible to read this challenge before, but when you are in the room, you can read it. So I saw this, and I was thinking if you are using something like this.
No, we're not. But I'm interested in that. Yes.
I saw this 1 year ago. They started to do it because I saw, this could be very
Good for you.
interesting.
Good for your own students. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I use this for my lesson because I give also a lesson art and culture. And they have to make a guided tour about the artworks around our school. And are not high level, but I saw how to say the energy of the students because they want to translate this knowledge in activity.
Yes.
And I think this kind of things could work.
It could work, and I
That's
think
very
it's
interesting.
interesting to discuss because I think, for me at least, it's always about finding a balance.
Yeah.
Because some part of me just feels like, take away all the signs, take away all the devices, just come and experience the artworks because that is pure magic. And then the other part of me feels like, no, but be very generous, use all different techniques, all different devices, make people active, make them use their bodies. So it's like trying to find that balance. And I mean, if you've got a good guide, we had this paper just sent to us from a teacher, and they visited the museum a few weeks ago with a class of kids like 15 or 16 years of age, and they had to write sort of a review afterwards in English, very helpful today. And they write things like, I usually don't think that art is that interesting, but the tour guide did it really well and made it fun and interesting to listen to. The guided tour we went on at the Moderna Museet really surprised me in a positive way. Usually when I listen to guides at museums, I unfortunately become extremely bored and zoom out and don't process any of the information the guides are telling me. This time it was different. Our guide was so energetic and engaged, which instantly affected the audience. He spoke about the art with interest and made this humorous, and surprisingly, I listened to every single word he said. And it goes on and on.
That's a great compliment.
And someone is like, he became a true rhetoric model for me, and I wish that one day I could become as professional as him.
Oh,
So they're just adoring this guy.
It's very much about the art of storytelling, in a way.
Yeah.
And then you don't need apparently any devices, just
a storyteller.
a good storyteller and some nice artworks, and then magic happens.
Which brings it back to the person, I forgot the name, who was standing and had like the whole audience included.
Carlo Berget, yes.
Carlo Delegate. Yeah.
Yes.
The museum is situated in the front, opposite to the art academy.
Yes.
And what's the connection between those? Between museum and I think the young artists, they would like to show their artworks, and you are the Museum of Modern Art.
Yeah. And they can't show any artworks here.
Oh.
No, but we try to have open, nice atmosphere. We of course want them to feel welcome here, to use the museum as a source of inspiration, and we sometimes produce like lectures together with the Art Academy.
And what's the position of Kunstfak in the? It's because we visited Kunstfak yesterday.
Yeah.
And now we found out there was another art school. What is?
Well, the Art Academy is.
The Royal.
It's got a longer history.
Yeah.
It's the Royal.
The Royal
Art Academy, but Kunstfak is on a par, I would say. It's highly regarded as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they are the two big.
But are they both the education the same, or is this here more traditional because it has a longer?
No, it's more autonomous, I found out.
Oh really?
I wouldn't say it's more traditional. They are quite. I mean, it depends on who the.
Yeah, I just went to see to give you a little my observation. Is that it's a little bit more autonomous here. The students I saw were also like a little bit more autonomous persons, as I could just observe, like what kind of persons were walking as students. And the social engagement is a little bit more. The themes they work on are more social engaged.
Okay.
That's what I observed, and when I talked to 2 or 3 people. But at 2:00 there is this exhibition, and then we're just going to sniff more and just talk to them. Yeah, because it's interesting. I've never saw a city with 2 art academies.
No.
No.
No, it's and from the beginning, Konstfack was more focused on crafts.
Crafts. Yeah.
And it was the teachers' school where teachers went. Yeah. But now they've gotten a fine arts education. So,
but both are not very multimedia.
Perhaps not,
because I'm one of those Nam Pike favorite people. I'm very much the audiovisual, and that's why I also work in music and a combination of art. Yeah, grown up in the MTV world, let's say, and then I look at all the art as well on that school, this school, and if I go to the Rietveld, then I see like this whole interactive audiovisual, and then if I come here, it's much more craft and 2D and 3Ds, and that's it.
Yeah, and I have no explanation to why that is so. Maybe it also depends on what teachers are employed at the moment and what headmaster.
But what I don't understand is like that's just for my head. It's like I think like, oh, this is the country where Spotify started. Yeah. And it's so digitalized in a way, and the whole northern development is so much more digitalized.
I don't have that connection, so I don't see what happens in the art schools all the time, but I would think that it's more of a coincidence than something that can say that is generally so in the arts educations in Sweden, because I think that there is also multimedia know-how in the schools, and there are artists who definitely work a lot with film and with installations that are quite technically and performances complex and performances, of course, yes. And we work a lot with performance here in the Moderna Museet as well.
Okay, you tell a little bit more about that?
Well, we've got. By the way, when you talk about music, we had our director now is Daniel Birnbaum, and when he came to the museum, he took out everything in the collection and he just presented photography. And then when we were going to represent the collection yet again, we emptied everything and just had a sound installation.
Yes.
For like 24 hours or maybe a weekend, where there was nothing to view
space,
but just things to listen to. Freak Out, I think that was called. Freak Out with like free with a Q, like in frequency. So it was all about sound.
Beautiful.
And I have a colleague in my department, Katrin Nordqvist, who is very much into performance. So we do work with performance artists. We had the Marina Abramovic exhibition the other year, so that fueled an interest, I think, in performance and performative activities.
Yeah. Ik heb ze wel gefilmd.
Yeah, it's interesting for us suddenly to see there's a full multicultural class coming in.
Yeah, we've got so much going on here. I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
But we've got talking about dance and movement. Yeah. We've got Parkinson patient people diagnosed with Alzheimer's and
I wanted to ask
and they come here to dance. So they work with an art educator and a dance educator, and they get to dance and move their bodies, and it's just beautiful.
Wow.
Really. And we've got people diagnosed with Alzheimer's or other dementia diseases, and they get to look at the artworks and they get to paint and create themselves. We have a program where we work with homeless ladies, so they get to come here every week and they get coffee and they get something sweet, and then they get to work with painting, and they come back. They don't show up anywhere else, but they come back here to the Moderna Museet. So it's fantastic. And we've got Mummy Learns Swedish, where women who have newly arrived in Sweden with babies, they get to come here and create art, look at art, and teach each other Swedish.
So you would like to have also the role, like the social role or community role. You know, this how to say
inclusivity.
Yes, exactly. The collection is a meeting point for different social. And
that's what I meant by the cultural center.
How you are working as well with artists, because with this project you hire the artists as well.
Yes.
Do you have a kind of labs, but the museum space is a laboratorium for the artists? How, does it exist, something like that?
Perhaps not for the artists. We do work with artists in certain workshops. We invite artists to work with young people, but that's very project-based, so it's not on a regular basis. And we work together with the Art Academy and Kunstfack for lectures, and so we can invite interesting speakers, and that's sort of intellectual labs, if you know what I'm getting at. But that's
I was thinking but also to make something, to create. I was thinking if you are making something with performance, this is also the lab.
But then not that just artists get to work with things just for themselves, but they get to work together with an audience, because we always have this audience focus. But for example, after Stockholm Moderna, let me tell you, this is in Swedish, Stockholm Moderna publication, but there's a summary in English. 2 of the articles are in English, the foreword and the other, and there's a lot of interesting images. Would you like to have?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
You don't have to if you feel it's heavy to carry with you. But
No, thank you.
And there.
I already have one in my
when
hand.
Stockholm Moderna ended. Oh, sorry.
Oh, can I take one for our colleague who's not here now?
Sure, you can.
Daniela?
Yeah.
After Stockholm Moderna finished, we started something
taking
called
care of Daniela.
Museum. So it was a continuation of the Stockholm Moderna, but not with this exclusive group of friends.
Dit is Mira 3.0.
And then we also involved artists and the film in the miniature cinema downstairs, Mini-bion. It's about the mole rat project, and I just printed a few of these things. They are on the website, but I am an environmentalist, so only one set of papers there.
No problem at all.
But you can find more if you look up museum in the website, Moderna Museet website. You can find more about that. So that's an initiative to activate artists and young people, and some of the ones who were engaged were also art students. So we realized that a vital issue to have art students and practicing artists. It's important to us that they want to come here and hang out and be inspired.
In your work as an art educator, do you cooperate sometimes with students? Students with pupils, for instance, because this is your book, which you would like to reach, but this is also good peer to know exactly if it works. Do you invite them to cooperate, to make your programs? How do you work exactly? What's work?
We do to some extent, but not as much as we would like to. I think we would like to work more with, reference groups to have more input. But we feel that it's quite difficult to get input. For example, in each and every teacher's guide I write, I always state that please come back to me with feedback. being asked questions. Please tell me how you've been using it. We have on our website also a notice. Get in touch with us. Let us know how was your visit. What would you like from the museum? And nobody ever.
Yeah, that's
Nobody.
it.
This is always a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do it a little bit in the gamification way.
There needs to be a reward, I think.
Yeah,
but
reward.
the after conversation.
The after conversation is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've been running a cultural center for a long time, and we had like the same issues, of course. And then we always find out, like, okay, like for example, if on social media, like if we did like a kind of like, okay, tonight film this, and we gave them an assignment, then next day we could find how much of the assignment came back.
Yeah.
And that could be anything of a theme, but it worked most of the time on social media.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's all, people want to participate, but not just give a statement.
No.
They want to contribute in a different way.
Yeah, contribute. Yeah.
We had a project that was mine, that I was the curator of, and I'm very proud of it. It was called Acclimatize, and it was a sustainability and creativity project, entirely online. And it
heard about
opened.
this one.
And we're thinking of reopening that space again, that virtual space again next year, so hopefully. But then we invited everybody to contribute something that was something creative, that was a comment on sustainability and the climate changes. And that interest was also massive. People felt that, wow, this is under the Moderna Museet umbrella, which feels like it's a nice cultural
Very interesting.
But also they got to present something of their own. And we all hoped, and think it actually happened that way, we hoped that personal engagement and creative outlet would also make you think about sustainability in a different way. Olafur Eliasson talks about that too. We engaged him in this project.
Sorry, who did you engage?
Olafur Eliasson. So we did an interview film with him for the Acclimatize site, and he says that it's so important to be able to touch the climate crisis. To touch it with your own fingers, then you will get it into your system, and you will respond differently than if you just read about it
That's
in
the
the paper. So
experience
you
again,
see, polar caps are melting, bummer. But if you can feel them melting away, you will start to react,
be more aware,
be proactive. So, just as a comment on participation and
experience, and using the senses, and what stays in the memory for a long time.
Exactly.
Wonderful job you have.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Wow, it's a warm shower.
And very inspiring for us, I think, for all of us in a different ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, the whole building is really nice to be. Even, you know, it has so many different levels, and it feels good. The outlay is really good, I think.
It's light, it's white, it's open. Glass.
Yeah.
And very 70s or some 60s, actually. Yeah, we have to say.
Yeah,
in
Scandinavian modernism
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah.
Couches, also in the galleries.
Yeah,
Couches.
that's what I really like.
Yeah.
You have like these really seats where you have the books.
Yeah, we always
Yeah,
try
that's
to
great.
have these pools with books. And
Invite
the
you
thing
to
is,
hang.
in Stedelijk you have like tables like this, and all the books are
On the chain.
on a chain.
Yeah.
And so on a table you really have to study, and here you can just sit back and take a book and take it, and it feels different.
I like this very much because if you're coming out from the room, for instance, with photography, I'm like, this is, I saw there, but I would like something more. But in the Netherlands, it's very often, okay, this is, a mountain of the books. Okay, I have to find out what was interesting for me.
Yeah.
So this is more the direction, directly.
You
I
see
saw
something
this.
in
Oh
it,
yeah,
yeah.
this is.
And for example, the furniture that we're sitting on, that's the result of a collaboration with audiences. Because here's an artist, Ivana Neuenschauer from Brazil, I think. She is it Brazil?
It's fun.
Yeah.
She was commissioned to do something together with young people. So she worked in a museum project like these, and the students were asked to rethink this area.
Oh.
And we had different furniture before, and they were more stiff and they were more rigid, more boring. And they thought that no, we need something more playful, something more versatile. So they went to Skansen, the outdoor museum with like architecture from all over Sweden, a living museum it is. And they looked at old vernacular furniture and.
So it's based on tradition,
So
all these.
it's based on tradition,
really?
but it's reformed.
Yeah. And a Brazilian eye, probably.
Yeah.
What is the name of that museum?
Skansen.
Skansen.
Openluchtmuseum.
Yes, I understand, but I don't know the museum. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we have some more time.
So,
No, it's the first time in Sweden now.
Yeah, okay.
Skansen.
Third day. Yeah.
So, lots to do, lots to see, of course.
yes.
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot
Thank you so
for
much
your
for all this
time.
information.
Yes, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm sure I've forgotten most things.
Well,
But maybe we
But
can also give you something back. Like, for example, you were talking about the things. I think we all saw something, and then maybe we can also give you something back, like you were just reading for us, like this, like review.
Yeah.
So maybe we can make a review for you, like something what inspires us, or
Yeah.
something we can give you back from our experiences.
yeah, or like
As
some
inspirational, maybe.
takeaways.
Yeah.
Like some examples we know.
Examples we know, which we didn't hear, like which you gave, like for example,
Yeah.
and then.
I would
Yeah,
really
yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that. And of
We'll-
course, if
we'll
you
get back
think
to
of
you.
more questions,
Yeah.
or if I was unclear, just email me. And
Well, you were
we can
absolutely
keep,
not unclear.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Everything is very easy to follow.
But most of the time, if you walk away, you think, oh, I should have asked that. So then we can write it down. And then
Yeah, true.
But isn't it also true that you often say these things and you rarely follow through? I find that
Yes.
so often if I meet colleagues in a conference and we get to talk and
Yes.
Yeah.
this is so much fun, let's keep in touch,
Yes.
let's discuss this further. And then
It's the same as holiday friends.
So these are
but it's a shame really.
It's kind of shame, but we're just all too busy with our lives, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really like to give it back to you to write something about what I got inspired as well.
Yeah, that's good. Then we can. Then we're the ones who give feedback anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Really
We'll go
appreciate
back
it.
into the museum. I'm going back into the
I'm going outside to
Eva, I
just
brought
empty
some
my head for a moment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And even coffee drinken.
Oh, super.
So fun.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Oh, I'm like a child.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.